pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to call the Lamar City Council regular meeting for Tuesday, March 4th, 2025 to order. We'll start with roll call, please.
Goodchild?
Yes.
Wick?
Yes.
Sturgeon? Bruns?
Here.
Pick?
Here.
Motion to approve the agenda.
Second. I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Moving on to B, hearing 2025 Lamar's Industrial Park Rail Extension Project. At the February 18, 2025 meeting, council set this date and time to hear public comments on plans, specification, form of contract, and estimate of cost for the 2025 Lamar's Industrial Park Rail Extension Project. The project consists of the extending of rail across 27th Street Southwest and the entire 500-foot depth of the Lamar's Industrial Park 4th Edition. Proposed schedule, March 4, 2025 public hearing, March 25, 2025 bid opening at 10 a.m., April 1, 2025 award, October 3rd, 2025 completion. I'd like to open the hearing and ask for any comments regarding the project. Anybody here from the public to comment on the project? Seeing none, I'll close the hearing and turn to the council. The estimate for the project is $504,245 to be funded with TIF.
Move to adopt resolution 25-9 on plans, specifications, form of contract, and estimate of cost for the 2025 Lamar's Industrial Park Rail Extension Project.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call, please, Jan.
Bruns?
Yes.
Goodchild?
Yes.
Wick?
Yes.
Pick?
Yes. Motion carried. Moving on to general discussion, citizens. Any citizens here to address the council on any matter? Nobody's jumping up, so we'll move on to the thumbs up award. Steve, what do you have for thumbs up?
Two today. Number one, the Community Theater starting their new season this weekend. I'm looking forward to that. Always good productions that they have there. And the other is the Knights of Columbus Fish Fries starting tomorrow, hopefully, and every Friday during Lent. So looking forward to that.
Great. I would echo those and then add thumbs up to our fire department and rescue service to put out the grass and field fires that were happening this last weekend. So dangerous time. So glad it all turned out well. Clark.
Thumbs up to city administration for not sending us that document in our agenda packet. For those of you who can't see it, it's like 800 pages deep. That's all I got.
Brian?
I'll echo your comment for the fire department. Good job this weekend. Same for me.
All right. Moving on to consent items. Under the consent items, we have an approval of the February 18, 2025 regular meeting minutes, a list of bills for period ending 2/28/25, a new 5-day liquor license to Bachers, urban revitalization tax exemption request.
Make a motion to accept consent items 1 through 4.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Moving on to action items. We're going to change the order up here so that Andrew can make a trip back to Ames and get on the road and hopefully safely travel there. So we'll move to E6, Wastewater Treatment Plan, Facility Plan. And attached is the executive summary of the wastewater treatment plant facility plan as prepared by Bolton and Mink. The 1,000 plus page document will be submitted to the IADNR for review. The plan is available to view at City Hall. The facility plan scope includes the construction of the following primary components: Wells North Ice Cream Plant, Lift Station and Forest Main, Anaerobic Industrial Pretreatment, expansion of the West Treatment Facility for treatment of all wastewater, demolition majority of East Treatment Facility site. The proposed project is feasible and necessary for the City of Lamar's to remain in compliance with NPDES discharge permit. The plan was developed to address long-range planning needs for the community. Administration recommends council proceed to public hearing to approve the facility plan. All costs will be funded through bonding and retired through customer sewer rates and industrial agreements in negotiations. There.
All right, that's a good summary. My name's Anderson. I'm an engineer with Bolton & Bank, and I was going to give a summary, but I think you took care of it. If you have any questions, I can answer them now.
Can you just explain, Andrew, why it's needed?
Yeah, so the facility plan is reviewed by DNR, and DNR requires the city formally approve the facility plan and its recommendations as part of their review process. So in order for DNR to approve it and the city to move forward with these improvements, we have to have the formal approval.
How long does it take them to review that? 1,000-page
They
document?
said 3 to 4 months. So June, we should hear an answer.
Wow.
I guess I'd add, there were 3 main issues that the facility plan addresses. One of them is new regulations from DNR for nitrogen and phosphorus removal, part of the Iowa nutrient reduction strategy. Another main issue is the treatment capacity increases. Wells requested a 50% increase in their allocated capacity. Kemp's requested a 40% increase, and the city included a 20% increase for the residential commercial loads. And those are based on 10-year planning period for the industries and 20-year planning period for the city. In addition to the design year loadings, Wells has 20% reserve capacity, and the city also has 20% reserve capacity included for residential commercial loadings.
So by approving this is just sending it on to the DNR?
Yes.
So if they kick it back and say, change this, change that, change this, or if other factors change within the city, we're not hung to stick to this plan, correct?
Yes, it can be amended.
It can be amended
Yep.
and altered and changed.
Yep.
Go back to those reserves again. Just refresh me on those again.
Yeah, so Wells included, so I guess starting back at the beginning, we put out to Wells and Kemp's for what you guys want to discharge to the city.
Right.
Wells came back and said we want to discharge 50% more of our flow and loadings to the city. Kemp's came back and said they want to increase their loadings by about 40%. There's some differences in the different parameters, but generally it's about 40% increase. The city decided to increase their design flows and loadings to a population equivalent of about 13,000 people. So that was about a 20% increase in the design flows and loadings for the city part. So those are, for industries, that's for a 10-year projection, and for the city, it's a 20-year projection. Those are the design year projections. On top of all that, Wells asked for 20% reserve capacity, and the city also has 20% reserve capacity for residential commercial loadings. So it's a significant increase in the overall wastewater treatment capacity for the city of Lamar is included in this document.
I won't get into it right now, but I thought they had backed off those larger reserve capacities. For some reason,
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, they came back down to 5. And so there seems
No.
to be a huge disparity, and so I'm missing something.
Okay, so Wells had 20% reserve capacity and Kemp's declined to have any reserve capacity. So Kemp's has 0% reserve.
Okay, now I'm confused, because you sat here and you just said, this has got a 50 or 20% for Wells and a 40% for Kemp's, and now you're saying Kemp's is saying, what is it? And I'm confused.
There's a difference between requested design year, flows and loadings, and then on top of all that, reserve capacity.
Okay,
So Wells requested 50% increase and Kemp's requested 40% increase for that design year portion. Then on top of all that, Wells asked for another 20% reserve capacity
okay,
and Kemp's asked for none.
okay, okay. Thank you.
Sorry, it's a little
No, I
confusing.
wasn't trying to make it tricky. I just,
Explain, yeah.
I'm not the sharpest knife in the drawer, so thanks.
Any other questions of Andrew?
We'll move to establish March 18, 2025 at 12 p.m. as a date and time for public hearing on the wastewater treatment facility plan as prepared by Bolton and Mink.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Andrew. Safe travels.
Get ahead of it.
Okay, moving back up to E1, National Fitness Campaign Grant. City of Lamar's applied for and was awarded a 2025 National Fitness Campaign Grant. The grant will help fund an outdoor gym fitness court at Municipal Park as part of the Community Betterment 3 projects. The mission of the campaign is to build healthy communities by working with municipalities, schools, and sponsors across America to plan, design, fund, and activate healthy communities and schools of the future. By 2030, the campaign's goal is to fund 5,000 free outdoor fitness courts. The fitness court will be 38 by 38 and is proposed to be located east of the current playground out at Municipal Park. Administration and LABF recommend council accept the grant. Financials are total $198,500. $30,000 of that would be the grant, so local funding of $168,500.
Okay, Dustin Wright and myself have met a few times with this organization. Once was a couple weeks ago, and that's where we went over this grant and the grant application. So it was submitted, I filled it out, I submitted it, and then it was probably the next day or two that it was approved. So this is simply to approve acceptance of the grant. I'll explain a couple of little, I did put a picture in there. I put the award letter in there and a photo of what we're talking about, of what it's gonna look like. What you see in that color photo, that right there comes at a cost of $170,000. The grant is for 30, so that reduces our price to 140 for that picture. The difference in the numbers under financial is the concrete base is not included in that price, so that's a cost to us. Plus the installation of that equipment is under a different contractor, and that's a separate contract the city has to have with that contractor. So that's why our price, instead of the 140 as listed in the resolution, is actually closer to 168.5. And location has changed a little bit too. I put in here located east of the current playground. That might not be exactly where it's at, but it'll be in the municipal park. up in the area that we're gonna redo as part of the Betterment Foundation project, or the CBP2 project. One of the requirements of this organization is that they request that it be at least 150 feet away from a playground. That way they don't have the mixing of kids thinking they can play on this stuff, so.
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 2510, accepting the grant award and committing funds toward the 2025 National Fitness Campaign.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on this? I would add that this is all part of the community betterment plan, so technically the city isn't committing more funds than they already have with the 5.5 million. So. Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Pick,
Yes.
Goodchild,
Yes.
Wick,
Yes.
Bruns.
Yes.
Motion carried. Moving on to Park Regulations Ordinance E2. Chapter 46, Park Regulations of the Lamar's Code of Ordinances states various rules for park users. Section 46-.08 specifies that the recreational trail located within the city limits is part of the city's park facilities, and that park rules apply to the recreational trail. With the completion of Phase 1 of the Plywood Trail from Lamar's to Merrill and the 28E agreement the city has with the Plywood Trail Foundation, where the city of Lamar's will maintain and repair Phase 1, it is imperative that the city's rules also apply to the Plywood Trail. Attached is a suggested change to Section 46.08 to include that specific portion of the Plywood Trail. Administration recommends council proceed to a public hearing to amend the Code of Ordinances.
Okay, so what this is gonna do is, the current, if you can read what the current one says, it's very specific to, within our city limits. So we have signage on our current trail in Lamar's. We have signage up that says, I think for the most part, most of them say no motor vehicles. Okay. Plus this chapter goes into some more things that we don't want happening on there. So this is really gonna allow us to, we'll put up the same type of signage, same wording that we have in town, just to try to discourage things from happening. So, yeah, that's really all it is.
This is just moving to a public hearing,
Yep.
but, I mean, I'll just be upfront. My concern is I'm not interested in trying to enforce ordinances outside of our city limits. Number two, and more importantly, is once we start doing that, I think we assume ownership of a trail we don't own.
Well, I would just suggest to you that under the 2080 agreement we have a duty to insure that trail. We have a duty to repair that trail. And so these rules allow us to continue to do that under that agreement. I mean, we want to have rules because we insure the trail. I mean, that it's pretty much that simple.
But from day one, I was told about an endowment that was gonna maintain the trail. And from day one, we were told we'd never own it. Am I right, Jason?
Yeah, they're gonna create that endowment. We just talked about that at the last plywood meeting. And we have one this afternoon, and I'll bring it up.
Because I don't want this to be a burden to the city of Lamar, you know, that's my concern. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Well,
so, yes.
We just need, I mean, our police force, if we have somebody driving a four-wheeler down the trail, they need to have a mechanism where they can enforce the regulations that our parks have. That's what this is. We're just extending that through that trail.
But it's outside of our city limits. So where does it stop? Does it go to Hinton then too? I mean, once it's done? I
The
mean, I was,
2080 agreement provides that we
I mean-
insure and maintain the trail through Merrill. And it doesn't
Through or to?
I'd have to look at it.
Well, what it is, we have another agreement with Merrill also that we approved years ago, where we will ensure that the trail gets through Merrill. But once it's done, it's Merrill's.
once it's done, it's back to Merrill's.
Yeah.
So we're not gonna be asked to do this from Merrill to Hinton. I mean, I'm probably not gonna be here, so it really doesn't matter, but,
Yeah,
I mean,
well-
down the road, am I gonna be asked to do this to Hinton? And then to Sioux City? And all of a sudden,
No,
Mars,
So right now they're working on, when I say they, the Plywood Trail Foundation is working on some design and some funding mechanisms for the middle section, so Hinton to Merrill. Not done yet, but they just recently, I think, or will submit an application for a grant, okay? Hinton is, just like we had to do for this part, they needed a municipality,
to be the contract authority.
yeah, to be the one who does the stuff. Hinton, just for the grant submittal, has taken that on board, okay, rather than Lamar's. So Hinton has agreed to do that. It's no commitment on their part. It's just the Plywood Foundation needed somebody to submit it for them. Now, that's not to say they don't have a 28E with anybody for that middle section to maintain it yet. So it's not out of the question that they won't ask, but I know Sioux City has the 28E agreement that Sioux City has with Plywood, takes them up to the south side of Kitten. So,
But to Clark's point about maintenance and repair, the endowment, while the city may do that, the endowment will reimburse the city. That's my understanding, is that
yeah,
correct?
that's gonna be a forever